Hey, Spooky Besties. I'm Ro, and this is the Scaryverse, the podcast where we dig into everything that makes the world feel just a little off. From true crime to urban legends, haunted history to psychological horror. If it keeps you up at night, we're probably talking about it. This week, we're peeling back the layers of something that hits close to home, both literally and emotionally. There's a wave of rumors spreading through New England, murmurs of a serial killer, 13 women, 3 states, and a whole internet full of speculation. You know how horror fans can tell you their first scary movie? Mine was Scream. 11 years old, my dad took me because he thought it was a comedy. I never forgot it. But for true crime, I remember exactly where I was the moment I became obsessed. It was the summer the Casey Anthony case broke. I was in my early 20s, working 6 p.m. to midnight at a grocery store. I'd get home late, my feet hurting, my mind buzzing, and I'd crash on the couch with my roommate. And almost every night, we turned on Nancy Grace. Let me set the scene. The screen flashes. Kaylee Anthony is missing. Nancy's voice blares out. Bombshell tonight. Top mom Casey Anthony's lies unravel. It was dramatic, relentless, hypnotic. Every day there was something new, another twist, another contradiction. Casey said Kaylee was with a nanny named Zanny, then said she drowned, then said her dad helped cover it up. Nothing made sense. And yet I couldn't look away. I remember being scared for Kaylee, even though I didn't know her. It felt like something was happening, and we were all part of it. I thought I was helping just by watching, like caring really hard made me part of the solution. But looking back, I was consuming someone's grief. And yeah, I thought Nancy Grace was credible. She was a prosecutor. She was intense. But now I see how much damage she did. She made a tragedy into a TV event. I watched the entire Casey Anthony trial live, gavel to gavel, with my now husband. I cried during closing arguments. I yelled when the verdict came in, and I had to sit with something uncomfortable. I wasn't the one grieving, but I felt like I was. That blur between empathy and obsession is what makes true crime so tricky. And it didn't stop there. When Gabby Petito went missing, I followed every update. I scrolled Instagram tags from Grand Teton National Park trying to spot her van. I thought, maybe if enough people looked, we'd find her. Then Brian went missing, and I knew we weren't going to get the ending we wanted. Delphi, Abby, and Libby, I couldn't even read the full court docs. It was too brutal. We're not just talking about the headlines. We're talking about what happens when internet detectives get involved. Sometimes they help, sometimes they hurt, and sometimes they blur the line between justice and chaos. So grab your coffee or something stronger, and let's take a walk together straight into the shadows of the Scaryverse. I've followed dozens of cases now, watched coverage, read court filings, listened to podcasts, and I always try to ask myself, who is this helping? Am I honoring someone's story or just entertaining myself? Because the truth is, it's hard to know where that line is. Even when you care, even when your heart is in the right place, you can still cause harm. And I want this podcast to do better, to be better. So that's where I'm coming from. That's how I got here. That's why this episode matters to me. Now, I want to hear from you. When did you first fall into true crime? What was the case that hooked you? And what did it teach you? Let's talk about it. There's one more piece of this I want to share. It's something that happened recently, just under a year ago. Because of my love for true crime and thinking I might actually want to do something with it, I enrolled in an online forensic anthropology course. I was back in school as an adult trying to challenge myself and see if I could handle it. And at first, I was excited. It felt like something that would finally give me that deeper knowledge I'd always wanted, a good way to put my interest to good use. But as the course went on, the reality hit. We weren't handling evidence physically, of course. It was all online, but that didn't make it any easier. We looked at real crime scene photos, watched videos explaining decomposition, learned how to identify victims from skeletal remains, trauma patterns, recovery site details. and it wasn't theoretical anymore. These were real people, real victims. And I remember sitting at my computer one night, staring at a slide of a badly decomposed body and thinking, I don't know if I can keep doing this. Not because I was squeamish. I've watched horror movies since I was 11, but because there's a level of emotional weight that comes with seeing real death, with learning to identify someone by how they were hurt, by what was left behind. I made it through the class, but I carried a heaviness with me because I started to realize every case I ever followed so closely, every victim I felt connected to online, they were this. They had been studied, picked apart, labeled, and even turned into somebody's college assignment. And it made me ask myself something I hope you ask too. Are we seeing these people? Or are we just looking at them? So, yes, I love true crime, but now I love it differently, with more care, with more hesitation, with more respect, because I never want to forget that behind every case is a family and a person and a line we cannot afford to cross. Now, let's take everything we've just talked about, curiosity, obsession, ethics, and apply it to what's happening right now. Let's go deeper into the fear that's taken over New England, the serial killer rumor, the bodies, the truth, and the speculation. Let's go there gently. Let's talk about what's happening right now, because something is going on in New England and people are scared. People are angry and people are asking, is there a serial killer on the loose? And look, I don't use that phrase lightly because real serial killers don't look like they do in movies. There's rarely a mask or a calling card, no dramatic music cue, no chase scene. But right now, we've got 13 women found dead across 3 states, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, in a span of just a few months. And what makes this terrifying isn't just the number, it's the similarities, it's the mystery, and it's the silence from the people who are supposed to be giving us answers. So let's walk through it slowly, carefully, and with respect. Because behind every viral headline is a real human life, and we owe them more than just a hashtag. Victim 1, Paige Fannin, from Norwalk, Connecticut, age 35. Paige was found in the Norwalk River, her clothes neatly folded, her bag nearby. No visible signs of trauma, no clear cause of death. Her family said she was doing well, no history of mental illness, no history of disappearing. And yet, there she was, alone in the water. The news barely covered it. No interviews, no candlelit vigil, just a quiet sentence on a police blotter. No foul play suspected. But when you talk to people in the community, they're not convinced. And honestly, I'm not either. Victim number 2 was Denise Leary from New Haven, Connecticut, age 59. Denise was reported missing in January. Her body wasn't found until spring, weeks after a local homeless outreach center lost contact with her. She had a history of mental health challenges, and for a while, people assumed she had wandered off until they found her body just off a wooded trail less than a mile from where she was last seen. No major injuries, no cause of death released. Case still technically open, but again, no suspects, no answers. Victim 3, Michelle Romano, Foster, Rhode Island, age 56. Michelle was last seen walking home from a small market near her house. She lived in a quiet area, the kind of rural road where your neighbors wave and you can hear every car for miles. She didn't make it home. 2 weeks later, her body was found in a wooded area off a logging path. The state police opened an investigation, but haven't released any meaningful updates. Online sleuths point to the fact that her path home was familiar, well lit, and near her routine. They say she had to have known her attacker or been stalked. But again, that's just speculation. Victim 4 was an unidentified woman in Springfield, Massachusetts. This one chilled me. A woman's body was found near a bike trail in Springfield. Not buried, not hidden, just placed. The case broke after a jogger reported a foul smell. By the time the media picked it up, the woman still hadn't been identified. No personal belongings, no wallet, no phone. and no press conference. In fact, the story was only reported by 2 small local outlets. The larger media, nothing. Victim 5, human remains in Westerly, Rhode Island, near Taylor Swift's mansion, unidentified. Yeah, you heard that right. In May, partial remains, what appeared to be a leg bone, were discovered near Taylor Swift's property in Watch Hill, Rhode Island. As soon as that location hit the headlines, TikTok went wild. Within hours, there were full-blown theories about celebrity stalkers, cult rituals, elite cover-ups. But what we know is this: leg, washed up, no ID, no criminal determination yet. And once the Taylor Swift angle wore off, the attention did too. But someone lost their life, and no one seems to care anymore. Those are just 5. There are 8 more. Most of them still unnamed publicly, either due to ongoing investigation or lack of media coverage. Here's what connects them. All women, all found near wooded trails, rivers, or secluded areas, all discovered in the first half of 2025. And not a single confirmed cause of death. Not one. So enter the internet. Reddit users quickly formed a thread called the New England River Killer. Theories range from a lone trucker with a hunting cabin to a secret cult that meets once a season. TikTok creators are editing videos of case maps, building timelines, overlaying voice distortions and creepy sound effects, some of them with millions of views. One creator even suggested the women are being harvested by a satanic network, which, by the way, is the same narrative people used to explain satanic panic in the 80s. Totally baseless, but viral. And while all that's happening online, here's what's happening offline. Families are begging people not to repost their loved ones' photos. One mother reported getting threatening DMs from people accusing her of being involved in her daughter's death. A cousin of one of the women was doxxed because she disagreed with a theory on Facebook. Let me say that again. Grieving families are being harassed because strangers online think they know better than detectives, medical examiners, and the people living the loss. That's not advocacy. That's cruelty dressed up as curiosity. So what do we know? Look, I'm not saying these cases aren't connected. I don't know. No one outside law enforcement does. But what we do know is this: we have more questions than answers. These women deserve more than speculation, and their families deserve peace. The question is, can we still follow a case while also choosing compassion over content? That's where we need to go next, because we've seen what happens when we don't. And we're about to talk about 3 cases that prove how high the cost of speculation can really be. We've talked about the women being found across New England. We've talked about speculation. Now I want to step back and show you how we've been here before, because what's happening right now, it echoes 3 of the most talked about true crime cases in recent memory: the Delphi murders, the disappearance of Gabby Petito, and the mass killing known as the Idaho 4. And each of those cases shows us what happens when the internet becomes the investigator. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it hurts, and sometimes it turns trauma into content. Case 1. The Delphi murders. February 13th, 2017. 2 best friends, Abby and Libby, go for a hike on a popular trail in their hometown. They never come home. Their bodies are discovered the next day near the Monon High Bridge. But here's the part that stunned the world. Libby, even in her fear, had the presence of mind to hit record on her phone. She captured a grainy image of the man walking toward them. Jeans, jacket, hands in pockets, and an audio clip of his voice. "Guys, down the hill," is what he said. That's all we had for years. Reddit took over. Facebook groups swelled. People compared boots, analyzed walks, slowed the video down frame by frame. Some of it was driven by good intentions, but some of it turned cruel fast. One man, who was never a suspect, had his life turned upside down after being named by online sleuths. People showed up at his house. He was doxxed. His workplace was contacted. And in 2022, when Richard Allen was finally arrested, he was someone no one on Reddit had ever mentioned. Turns out, The evidence had been quietly collected by law enforcement over years. No big reveals, no wild theories, just investigation. And it reminded all of us, being loud doesn't mean being right. Case number 2 is Gabby Petito. I'll be honest, this one still hurts to talk about. Gabby was a 22-year-old YouTuber traveling the US in a van with her fiance, Brian Laundrie. Her Instagram was full of sun-soaked selfies, wide open skies, and dreamy filters. But when she stopped posting, people noticed. And then Brian came home alone and refused to speak to anyone. The internet exploded. People started analyzing every detail of their videos, facial expressions, body language, music choices, whether her eyes looked glassy in a TikTok, whether she looked scared in a police body cam video from Moab, Utah. And then a breakthrough. A YouTube couple reviewing their own vacation footage spotted a white van parked in Grand Teton. They submitted the tip to police. That lead helped find Gabby's remains. So, yes, social media helped, but not all of it was helpful. People started monetizing her death, merch, YouTube recaps, TikTok story times with sad piano music. Some even faked tips to gain followers. Gabby's family pleaded for privacy, but by that point, she was trending. She wasn't a person anymore. She was an algorithm. In case number 3, the Idaho 4, Haley Gonsalves, Addison Mogan, Anna Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. On November 13th, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were brutally murdered in their off-campus home. The story went viral almost instantly. People couldn't believe it. 4 college kids, seemingly at random, attacked while they slept. Theories took off within hours. Was it an ex-boyfriend, a roommate, a stalker? Sleuths created digital maps of the house, reconstructed timelines, compared Venmo activity, dug up old Instagram tags. Within a week, TikTok had dozens of creators accusing other students by name of being the killer. Some were just classmates. Others didn't even know the victims. And while that chaos spread, the real suspect, Brian Koberger, was quietly being tracked by investigators. A criminology PhD student with no obvious motive who had applied to work with police departments and who, by the way, drove across the country while surveillance teams gathered DNA and data. He wasn't on Reddit's radar. He didn't match any online theory, but he was the one arrested. So what's the pattern? What do all 3 of these cases have in common? The internet helped and hurt. It kept the stories alive. It surfaced new clues. It gave families attention they sometimes needed. But it also falsely accused innocent people, turned grief into a spectacle, and made justice harder to find. We created content out of trauma, and often we did it with zero accountability. The truth is, families see all of this. They're on Facebook. They get tagged in conspiracy theories. They're reading threads that claim their child was part of a secret society or a drug ring, or that they are somehow involved. And they have to live with that, in addition to everything they've already lost. When we say the internet helped solve the case, we forget to ask, at what cost? Who did we hurt along the way? And what happens to all those lies we created long after the truth comes out? These are questions we need to ask before we jump on the next viral mystery, because it's not just about the killer. It's about everyone left behind. Okay, let's step back for a second, out of the Reddit rabbit holes, out of the timelines and TikToks, and into something deeper. Let's talk about what's really going on in our heads when we get hooked on these cases, because I don't think we're just chasing killers. I think a lot of the time we're chasing closure. We need it. Our brains are wired for it. There's a psychological concept called cognitive closure. And once you learn it, it explains so much. It's the need to resolve uncertainty, to answer questions, to make chaos make sense. The unknown, it makes us feel unsafe, powerless. But if we can figure out the story, the villain, the motive, the how and why, then suddenly we're not helpless anymore. Even if the truth is horrible, at least we know. And this is where true crime, horror, and psychology start to overlap. Because horror movies, whether we notice it or not, give us closure. The killer is unmasked. The curse is explained. The haunted house has rules. There's a third act twist, and then credits roll. Even when the ending is tragic, we understand why it happened. But in real life, there's no credits, no music cue, no reveal. What's really scary, truly terrifying, is when people die for no reason, when they're just in the wrong place, when the killer never explains themselves, when the system fails. So we make up patterns, we tell stories, we invent monsters because random chaos is too much to hold. Have you noticed how often we turn unsolved cases into movies in our heads? A killer who stalks women across state lines, a man in a truck watching bike paths, a cult in the woods. But the truth might be a lot messier and a lot more boring. It might be drugs. It might be domestic violence. It might be mental health issues no one wants to talk about. It might be nothing we can ever explain. And that's the part we hate, because if it could happen to them for no reason, then it could happen to us. Horror teaches us to spot signs. Final girls live. Whoever drinks or sneaks off into the woods dies. The rules are written. So when we watch true crime, we apply the same logic. Who acted suspicious? Who didn't cry? Who posted too soon? Who looked off in the interview? And sometimes that's helpful, but sometimes it's cruel because victims don't behave the way we want them to. Grief isn't always neat, and not every story has a satisfying third act. True crime doesn't give us structure. We try to force one on it. There's another term, and this one's kind of spooky: apophenia. It's the tendency to see patterns that aren't there. It's why we see faces in clouds or think our phones are listening when we talk about something and then see an ad. And in true crime, it's why people connect dots that have no evidence between them. It's how 13 unrelated deaths turn into a serial killer theory, because the human brain needs the story to line up. And here's the catch. Sometimes those patterns are real. Sometimes our instincts are right, but not always. And when we act on the wrong pattern, when we post it, share it, tag people in it, the consequences don't disappear just because we meant well. I believe you can be curious and still be kind. I believe you can love true crime and still respect victims. But that requires something harder than chasing a theory. It requires pausing. It requires asking, who am I centering here? Am I building something that helps or just something that spreads? Because the real horror is not knowing the truth and then causing more pain while pretending you do. All right, let's take this home. Okay, so we've talked about a lot tonight. We've gone from true crime origin stories to internet rabbit holes to real families suffering while strangers try to crowdsource justice. And we've looked inward at why we're drawn to these stories, why we chase patterns, why we need the monster to have a name. Now comes the part that might sound simple, but it's the hardest of all. The part where we ask, what do we do with this knowledge? If you love true crime, that's not the problem. If you care deeply about victims, that's not the problem either. But we do have to take responsibility for how we interact with these stories, because caring is not the same as helping, and sharing is not always support. So here's your horror homework for the week. And honestly, for every week moving forward. The Scaryverse sleuthing code. When a case crosses your feed, whether it's breaking news or a 10-part deep dive, ask yourself these 5 questions. Who is this helping? Is this bringing awareness to a real injustice, or is it giving me a hit of adrenaline? Number 2, am I amplifying facts or speculation? Before you repost something, check the source. If it's anonymous, vague, or sensational, don't share it, even if it feels true. Number 3, how would I feel if this was my family? Would I want my child's last selfie turned into a TikTok trend? Would I want strangers making memes about my grief? Number 4, am I open to being wrong? If you get new information, would you delete a theory you once believed in? Would you apologize? Would you change your view? And then number 5, do I have to say something right now? Sometimes silence is respect. Sometimes waiting for facts is the most ethical thing you can do. Just because a story is trending doesn't mean you owe it a take. I'm not saying don't engage. I'm not saying don't care. What I am saying is we owe it to the people in these stories, the real people, to be thoughtful, because victims are not puzzles. They're not case studies. They're not entertainment. They were daughters, sons, brothers, sisters, friends, people with futures that were taken from them. I want to hear from you. Have you ever caught yourself going too deep into a case? Have you ever shared something and then wondered if it crossed the line? Or have you seen someone else do it and didn't know how to say, hey, maybe let's slow down? You're not alone. I've done it too. And part of doing better is just naming it. So DM me at the Scaryverse podcast, comment on the YouTube video, send a voice note, email me at scaryversepodcast@gmail.com. Tag me in your story, only if it feels right. I'm collecting your thoughts for a listener episode, the good, the messy, the reflective, because this space isn't about perfection. It's about growth. I started this episode worried that we're flipping into something dangerous, where grief becomes gossip and trauma becomes trend. But I'm ending it hopeful, because if you're here, if you've made it through this whole conversation, that means you care. And that means there's a chance to reshape the way we talk about true crime, to lead with compassion, to love horror without becoming horrifying ourselves. So here's to better questions, to gentler curiosity, and to stories told with heart. Until next time, stay skeptical, stay thoughtful, and stay in the Scaryverse.